Welcome to a MainelyDIY.com video. Welcome to today's video, which will be on joining granny squares. Before you join them, you really want to block them, and I'll have a video up very soon about blocking squares, but you really want to block them, and let me show you why you want to block them. For instance, this is a variation of the granny square that I've done, and this is another one, but if I match up a corner on those, this one's quite a bit bigger, this one, and you don't want that when you're putting your squares together, so you need to block them. But as I say, that will be on another video. So I'm going to start putting these two granny squares together. I'm just going to use a yarn needle. This one has a bent tip. I have a video that's either released or will be released real soon on needle selection, but I want to try out this one today. So I'm going to put my squares together, right sides together, and the right side on the last row is what I'm concerned with, and you can tell the right side because it has this little twist in here. That's the right side. So you want the back, this is the back loop here, you want that facing up, and then I'm going to put this one on top. So I've put them together, right sides together, and I'm going to start in my middle chain of my corner, and I'm just putting the yarn through both loops. So I put my yarn through that middle chain on both stitches, and then I'm going to pick my yarn up and come across and kind of do a whip stitch. So I am maybe like lacing a pair of shoes. So I'm just crossing over for the opposite side that I'm at. I'm picking up the back loop of the stitch on the front one and the back loop on the back one and pulling it across. And I do that a little bit tighter. I'm going to pull it tight now. So I just continue along, and I'm just kind of lacing it back and forth. Okay, so that's kind of what that looks like on the back side. You open it up and you almost don't see it on the front side, which is what you want. You know, I'm using a contrasting color so you can see, but you know, that doesn't look so cool. Or maybe it does, maybe that's what you want. But for me, I kind of would like my stitches hidden. So to me that doesn't look so cool. So what you would do to avoid that problem, what I did was I put a row, my last row is all the same color. Traditionally it's black. It could be white, it could be one of the colors, but you want to kind of have a matched set on the outside, because then when you do your stitches, when you put those together, it's not going to show. And let me show you what I mean by or show you the difference in those two. So I'm starting in my corner chain on these. So I'm picking that middle chain. There's 3 chains there. It's harder for you to see, and again I put my right side together, but I'm just doing the same stitch that I did with on the other one. But as I say, you don't want your stitches to show so much. So this is the back side. You really can't see my stitches there too much. And on the front side, they really disappear, and especially when you compare them to this one. So unless you want that as a design element, you probably don't want to do that. So that is sewing your squares together, and I'm going to come back in just a little bit and show you how to crochet your squares together. So this time I'm going to crochet my stitches, my squares together rather, and I'm going to use this black yarn just so you can see the contrast, so you can see what I'm doing. And I probably would have worked this tail in, but I'm not going to bother. So I'm going to make a slip stitch and put the yarn on my hook. And let's put it together with slip stitches, and then we'll try it again with singles. So this time I'm going to put the wrong sides together. So I'm coming in that middle chain of the 3 chains in the corner, putting my hook in both of those. I'll wrap my yarn around to the back side, picking up and pull it through all the way through the black, so I end up with one on my stitch. And Crochet Kitty wants to take a look at that as well. So again, I'm going in the back loop of my stitch, and I'm picking up the back loop of my stitch on the back side. I'm wrapping my yarn around and pulling it through all of my loops so that I end up with one on my hook. And I'm going to continue okay, so I am putting my hook in the back loop of my front one and the back loop of my back one, wrapping my yarn around, pulling it through my squares and through the one that's on my hook. So I'm going to continue to do that, and this is slip stitching. And again, I would do this, I put a black round around all my outside, or the same color as my last row. But so I'm going to open that up. You get a little bit of a ridge line. You can see it looks like chains on this side and a little bit of stitch on that side. On the back side, we get a lot of what it looked like when we sewed our pieces together. Let's see if I can, you can't really see it on that one, so I won't show it, but so it looks similar on the back side. You could make that your front side, but you're getting, it lies fairly flat, relatively flat if you did this. I kind of like crocheting mine together. I feel I get a tighter piece together. And now I'm going to finish or work on finishing this row off, but instead of doing a slip stitch, I'm going to continue on, but I'm going to do a single crochet. So again, I put my hook in both loops, I wrap my yarn around, pull it through my square yarns, and then I have 2 on my hook, and then I wrap and go through 2. So it's just a traditional single crochet, and I'm fussing a little bit to get my yarn, or my hook in my yarn there, because that's where a joint was. Which reminds me, you probably don't want to put 2 joins together, so that's why this is over here, and the yellow is where I had joined that last round together. So you want to offset them so that they're not all in the same place. So I'm putting my hook in the stitch in the front, the back loop of the front square, and the back loop of the back square, wrapping my yarn around, pulling it up through 2, wrapping and going through the last 2. Alright, so you can kind of see there's some differences between that. This is a slip stitch, lays a lot flatter than this does, than this single does. The single, you see part of the stitch there, and here you just see loops. And from this side, doesn't look significantly different, except for maybe this doesn't lay as flat as that does. So probably the slip stitch is your best bet, but if you want to create some depth with it, then go with a single, because it will kind of recess your squares, and there'll be a more defined ridge on the top. It's kind of a matter of choice, whichever way you like. But again, my pick is to do the slip stitch over the sewing, and of course I would use it where I had the same color on the outer row. So that is my choice. Okay, here's a piece where I've put some of my squares together. And on this piece I chose to use the single crochet to put them together. Don't really know if you can see too well, but the squares are kind of recessed and the joint makes a ridge, and that was a design element that I chose to do. So this is the front side. Let's see if I can maneuver it around so you can see that maybe have just a little bit of a ridge line there. And that was accomplished by using the single crochets. On the back, you don't really notice too much of a difference in it. It's more the same level. But if I ran my hand across, I can feel the ridge line, and it recesses my squares, which is what I wanted for this piece. So it's a matter of choice which way you want to do it. I like the design element of having a ridge and having my squares recessed on this piece, so that's why I used a single to join them. But as I say, it's a matter of choice. It would have been a lot flatter had I used the slip stitch or if I had sewn it together, and that's kind of a matter of personal taste. I like crocheting my squares together better than sewing them because I just feel that it is sturdier. If your stitch, if a stitch was to break and you sewed it together, it's much more likely to come out than if you had singled. But as I say, it's a matter of choice, whichever way you're more comfortable doing it. So thank you, and you have a great day, and I hope you are enjoying MainelyDIY.com videos. I hope you'll join us again soon. Thank you.